Camcorder Camerin here. Today I'm going to be reviewing Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. I just saw the movie yesterday. I got this complimentary poster. I love it. You can make your own little John Carver on the back by cutting out the parts. And I just love having physical copies of things, so that's a fun treat. A little bit of backstory on this movie. If you ever saw the Grindhouse double feature with the movies Planet Terror and Death Proof, you would have seen the trailer that this movie is based on. It was a fake trailer created for that double feature. All of the fake trailers that were shown were eventually made into real movies, and this was the last of the trailers.
Thanksgiving. You'll come home for the holidays in a body bag.
I read that Eli Roth's inspiration was not to make a Grindhouse Thanksgiving version that we saw in the trailer, but to do a 2023 remake of what that movie would have been. So unfortunately, it's not in that fun 70s Grindhouse style that I love, but we're not going to hold that against it, and I just want to judge the movie for what it is and not what I hoped it would be. The movie does stay faithful to the original trailer. Pretty much everything shown in the original trailer is dispersed throughout this movie in a really natural way. So I like that it sticks to its roots. Overall, I didn't really like the movie. I left the theater feeling unsatisfied. But that isn't to say that I had a bad time. Like, I was laughing a lot throughout the movie, but as the movie goes on, it gets progressively less funny. So I was pretty bored in the third act, which the third act is supposed to be a fun climax, bringing everything full circle. You're not supposed to be bored in the third act. Our final girl, Jessica, is played by Nell Verlaque. I wasn't really impressed with her performance. Her acting reminded me a lot of Lily Reinhart's acting. Like, they're very similar. I don't know how to describe it other than that. Like, if you think Lily Reinhart is really great, you might like Nell. She was just dull. I mean, in general, she was like the straight character, so there wasn't much personality to her, but yeah, Nell didn't really bring anything to the role either. TikTok star Addison Rae is in this movie. She plays a comedic relief side character, teenage girl. Honestly, I think Addison Rae did a great job in this movie. I have nothing but positive things to say about her acting. I think that she outshined our final girl in many ways. Like, in a lot of the intense fear scenes, Addison Rae was pulling through. I was surprised. I've never seen her act before. I've never really seen her on TikTok. I just know that she's a TikTok star, so she's pretty new to acting, and girl, you go. I believe in her. I think Eli Roth is known for his body horror, and so he really pulls through in that regard. If you're a big Eli Roth body horror fan, maybe you'll enjoy this movie then, because this movie, the punchlines are the kill scenes. Some of the most funny moments are also some of the most gruesome moments. So I did find myself laughing at really terrible things. I love that it has black humor, sort of like in Final Destination, where each kill scene is unique and outrageous. That's how the kills are in this movie. It's like, what is the most outrageous way this person can die? And each death is different. One of the most horrific scenes for me in the movie is whenever a woman is getting cooked alive to be Thanksgiving dinner. They really emphasize like the claustrophobic feeling of being stuffed inside an oven and seeing the heat rise. Like, that moment was like kind of hard for me to watch. I was feeling squeamish, looking away, but also laughing because, you know, the killer opens the door right when she thinks her pleas for help are being heard. He sticks like a turkey baster in her thigh or something. So the kill scenes are the best parts of this movie. That's where they spent the most time and attention to detail, and it shows. My only complaint with the kill scenes is that they will just get you with the jump scares by playing a really loud noise randomly. So I was in the movie theater over and over again because I would get a loud blast of noise. I get jump scare fatigue. I find more thrill in the anticipation and the suspense than I do in when a loud noise blast, even whenever I expect it to be coming up, because we have a really quiet scene and you just know there's going to be a loud blast coming up, I still jump because that's just the human response to jump scares, you know? This movie felt like I was watching Scream, the TV show. I literally felt like I was watching that. It was kind of the same. It's heavily inspired by Halloween and heavily inspired by Scream. You got the killer dressing up as John Carver, and so he wears this John Carver pilgrim mask. And everybody in town has this mask, so it makes it hard to tell who it is, because everybody has access to that mask.
They sell this costume every 5 and dime in the state.
You're not gonna believe what he's wearing. Everyone in town's wearing them.
There's the whole whodunit factor, but this movie's really, really lazy with the script writing there. They kind of just half-assed, like giving us red herrings, and even the killer in the end, whenever it's revealed, it doesn't make any sense. Like, they literally show us flashbacks, which I'm not a big flashback hater. I don't mind them, but whenever you have to show a flashback just to make the movie make sense, I think that that's really lazy writing. So slasher movies are very formulaic and predictable, and as a slasher lover, I don't mind that. I don't mind that there's rules to slasher films. I don't mind if it's just like every other slasher movie, as long as the setups and payoffs are satisfying. This movie has a lot of that, a lot of setting up, but not a lot of satisfying payoffs. For example, our main character, Jessica, she has a line where she's like, "Oh yeah, my father made me pack a musket with gunpowder 100 times over, and I almost blew up in my face one time." So you hear that, you're like, okay, Chekhov's gun, that's gonna come into play later on in the final act of the movie. She's gonna at some point have a musket and need to load it with gunpowder to survive. You're expecting that to happen, right? So when it finally happens in the end, that's supposed to be like a fun, like, there she goes, she's got the musket. But it's just really, it's not that moment. It's kind of lazy. She packs her mother's bracelet into the gun because the bullets roll off the truck. And that's what she uses to shoot a giant inflatable turkey and blow up the killer. Which, I mean, is already so dumb because they paid so much attention to this locket bracelet around her wrist just for her to, like, pack it in the gun later on, which is another annoying setup. And also, I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. If there's that much gas in that giant of an inflatable, like, wouldn't you get blown up too? I mean, it seemed like a huge explosion. But in general, the whole final sequence was just so lame and not scary at all. And not funny. Like I said, usually, even if it's so gruesome I want to look away, I won't look away from the kill scenes because there's always a punchline in there. Like, a really funny one for me was whenever this woman who's running away from the killer and she's already got some wounds on her, she takes out her iPhone because she wants to call 911, but because her hands are so covered in blood, she can't open the iPhone, so she tries to do face recognition, but because her face is so marred, it won't recognize her face. And so that is like a hilarious moment, and I love scenes like that where you're like, oh my god, this is so scary, but that is so real. Like, you would not be able to open your iPhone with blood on your finger. While all that is happening with her iPhone, she's standing right next to like an old rotary phone, so it's pretty funny. And that's where the movie goes right. You have to have a balance, you know, between these outrageously funny graphic scenes and then the mystery scene. It just drags. Like, every time we're just with our high school characters eating lunch or investigating the school, I'm like, I am bored. I'm bored. I thought both the boyfriend characters were really lame. We got old boyfriend and then we got new boyfriend. Both of them serve as red herrings. There's some rivalry between them. They both were giving nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. My favorite character is the guy that owns the gun shop. He had the most personality, and he really loved his character. He loved punk rock, and you could tell he was having fun in this role. That was pretty funny. I love that. I totally thought, I think the character's name is Mitch, was going to be the killer. The character whose wife in the beginning trampling scene gets killed by a cart and you see him crying over her. That was the one guy who I thought would be the killer because he had the motive, and you see him, he's like becomes an active protester of Walmart. So I totally thought he was going to be the killer until he steps out in that clown parade and starts protesting. Then you're like, oh, dang it, it's not him. And the guy it ends up being, spoiler alert, is the sheriff, who apparently was having an affair with that guy's wife who got crushed by the grocery cart. So I had the right motive. It was because that woman got killed in the Walmart trampling, but it was the wrong guy that loved her. But of course you couldn't have guessed that because none of it makes sense until they reveal who the killer is. That's when they reveal that he even had an affair with that woman. It didn't make any sense. It's lazy. The opening sequence, I definitely didn't expect. It's like Black Friday gone wrong. For some reason, everybody is mobbing to get into this Walmart on Black Friday, and they're trampling each other. They're killing each other for these toaster ovens and crushing people with grocery carts. I mean, it is literally a harrowing scene, especially with recent events like that tragedy at Astro World and the January 6th insurrection. Like, we do see that situations like this can and do happen in real life. So there is some real fear to it, but it's another scene where I'm laughing through because it's just so over the top and ridiculous. And I love it. I loved that scene, honestly, even though it was scary. It was funny. The opening took too long, but it was one of the better parts of the movie, and I think it's a great way to start out your movie with a bang. And it makes its statement loud and clear. It's criticizing our human greed and our corporate greed. I think that this movie is going to be forgotten after this year. It's not going to be the next Thanksgiving movie we watch every year, the way that Halloween is, or the way that Silent Night, Deadly Night is for Christmas. And as far as a passion project goes for Eli Roth, I expected more. I don't know, you Eli Roth heads, come at me in my comments and let me know what you guys thought about this movie. Did you like it? Because it's your guy, Eli Roth. What did you think? Anyways, that's just my casual review of Thanksgiving. That's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Please consider checking out my Patreon. To all my Patreon supporters out there, I love you and thank you. Until next time, Camcorder Cameron signing out.